time has decided to keep moving forward, which means we're through another month, and I have some games to talk about, so let's just get into it. I started off with Rain World, an atmospheric platformer where you navigate a brutal landscape in an effort to reunite the playable character with their family. To be honest, I'm a little surprised by how much and how quickly I fell in love with this game. I don't want to say that it isn't for everyone because that might make you think you shouldn't try it, but it certainly is a title that asks a lot from the player. It asks them to learn their place within the ecosystem of the world through observation instead of direction. It asks them to work through large chunks of the game without really knowing how many mechanics work, and it asks them to often rethink what progress looks like. Putting this much responsibility onto the player is a hard ask, and a hard thing to properly balance. There is a fine line between intrigue and annoyance, and even if a developer tunes things just right, the player also has to be in a state of mind where they are willing to embrace it. And I 100% was. I adored figuring out bits and pieces of how the world, the creatures within it, and my character worked, so that I could use it all to my advantage in order to move from one area to the next. It's funny looking back at the footage of the gameplay, as it doesn't look like much, but in the moment I was completely immersed. Like, I don't know that I've ever felt as much exhilaration while playing a game as I did when juking these lizards. There is so much depth to this title, and I don't want to say much more about it, as half the joy comes from the little discoveries you'll make throughout your playthrough. This is an experience that I think some of you will really love. Like, it will become your favorite game ever kind of love. And I think others of you will quit after an hour of pure frustration and never look back at it. And to be clear, I don't think there is anything wrong with that. If you find it to be a miserable game to play, then you find it to be a miserable game to play. However, I would encourage you all to at the very least give it a try, because there is something really unique and special about how it works and feels to play. And even if you don't think you like unforgiving games, there's a chance you'll love this one. While I was playing Rain World, I ended up rage quitting fairly frequently because life comes at you fast, and you'd think when I did that I'd jump over to something chill and easy as a sort of palate cleanser, but instead I kept jumping back into Getting Over It with Bennet Foddy. I first beat Getting Over It in 2020, and the most interesting thing about coming back to it now is how much my relationship with the game has changed. That first playthrough was met with constant failure and frustration. I lost track of how many times I fell back to the bottom, and getting to the end took a tremendous amount of patience and effort. The thing is though, and anyone who's beaten the game can attest to this, after clearing it once, it really isn't hard to clear a second time, or a third, or a 20th. By that point, you've developed skills and more importantly, knowledge about the controls and map that make it kind of a breeze to get past. I think my first playthrough took around 12 hours, and now I can pretty consistently beat it in 15 to 20 minutes. It's kind of the perfect length for when I want to play a game, but don't want to dedicate a bunch of time to something bigger. So when I found myself between sessions of Rain World and the other games I played in September, it was an easy one to turn to. As odd as it sounds, it helped me relax. Without the fear of potentially never being able to get good enough to finish the game, I was able to just enjoy swinging through it, never getting too bothered with any loss of progress because I now have the skill to get back to where I was in just a few minutes. I find that a lot of hard games end up feeling like this once you've played them enough, and it's a pretty cool thing to experience. You get to view it from a new angle and play with a new purpose in mind. I wouldn't say I have mastered Getting Over It, but I am good enough where playing it now feels like an entirely different game than it once did, and it mostly comes down to me being skilled, which is a great feeling. I think this title gets written off as just being rage bait, and obviously it is trying to be to a degree, but also it has surprisingly fun and deep movement tech, as well as really thought-provoking musings on art and game design from Foddy himself that I enjoy listening to every run. If you've only beaten Getting Over It once, I would strongly suggest playing through it at least one more time, as it is super fulfilling to see how far you've come. And if you've never played it because you either wrote it off or watched a streamer do it, I'd say try it out for yourself, as you might be surprised by how fun it is once you get a hang of it. Continuing the trend of me playing games designed to kick the player's ass, I got sent a review code for Lies of P, a title that unabashedly wears its FromSoft influence on its sleeve, but does manage to provide an experience that feels different from the games it takes inspiration from. It centers around a parry system, which has led a lot of people to draw comparisons between it and Sekiro. But I will say, if you try to use its parry in the exact same way as you would in Sekiro, you'll have a bad time, as the system is less about learning to block every attack and more about combining blocks and dodges dodges effectively to take as little damage as possible. This creates a unique flow to combat that pushes you to fully understand how your kit works and learn the movesets of every enemy you face. Like Sekiro, it has a posture system where if you deflect enough hits and do enough damage, the enemy gets staggered. One big difference here though is that to complete the stagger, you need to hit them with a charge attack before the window ends, which I can see some people being frustrated by, but I thought it created a cool moment where you have to quickly determine the best way to get a hit in without being too greedy and getting hit yourself. It's high risk and high reward, and I find that sort of thing adds a lot of excitement to fights. I will say I kind of wish there had been a visible posture meter like there is in Sekiro, as I think that helps build up suspense, as when you get close to breaking an enemy's posture, you're more likely to take risks to make sure the posture doesn't go back down. You do develop a sense for how much it takes to stagger an enemy after a few times fighting one, so it isn't a huge deal, but I would have preferred to have the information. As for stuff other than the combat, it has an actually pretty good story that is far less cryptic than what we've come to expect from Souls-likes, making it easy to follow and connect to without needing VaatiVidya to tell us what makes it so good. It's also got a killer aesthetic that, yeah, is reminiscent of Bloodborne at a glance, but when you actually get into the game and see more of the areas, it differentiates itself enough to feel unique. Lastly, it has tight level design that loves to loop back around on itself in fun ways. It feels like the devs really loved the first level in Demon's Souls and decided to design every area with a similar philosophy. All in all, this is the first Souls-like I've played that has been able to get anywhere close to FromSoft's quality, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who likes the genre. To finish off the month, I started Sea of Stars, which was chosen for me by my benevolent and all-powerful patrons. Full disclosure, it is a pretty long game, so I have not had the chance to get super deep into it yet. From what I have played though, it is really good. The art style is charming, the music is all sorts of nostalgic, and the world building is intriguing. It also proves that turn-based RPGs can in fact be fun as hell. Honestly, I'm still early enough in the game where new things are being introduced, so I am sure I will have more to say in a future month's video, but so far the battle mechanics are just so cool. For starters, it has timed hits, which is always fun, and also there is an awesome weakness and stagger system where you're shown how many turns an enemy has until their next move, and if you can hit them with the proper attacks in that time frame, they will get stunned out of using it. This creates a lot of interesting decision making where you have to consider what combination of moves will lead to you taking the least amount of damage possible. Every fight kind of feels like a puzzle, which keeps things engaging. To make things feel even better, there are no random encounters. Every enemy appears on the map and you seamlessly jump between exploration and combat. Also, it does something I haven't seen an RPG do before, where when one of your characters hits 0 HP, instead of needing to be revived with an item, they just get back up on their own at half health after a few turns. And the more times they get knocked out in a battle, the longer it will take for them to get back in the fight. I really like this system as it makes keeping my characters alive feel more meaningful, because letting them get knocked down could lead to not being able to use them for a good while. Whereas in something like Final Fantasy, if you have enough Phoenix Downs, it doesn't really matter how many times one character gets knocked out as long as others are still up. This gives more weight to fights, and it's also just nice to not have to always be stocked up on 100 revives to make sure you never run out. So yeah, so far it is really promising, and I am excited to jump back in and play more of it. I will keep you posted as I get further. Anyway, that's all for September. See you next month, unless I decide to stop doing this. Bye.